Water. Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Okay, look. The plants aren't growing, so I'm pretty sure that the Brondo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Oh, well, I've never seen no plants grow out of no toilet.
Hey, that's good. You sure you ain't the smartest guy in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, look, you want to solve this problem, I want to get my pardon, so why don't we just try it, okay? And not worry about what plants crave.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why do they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes.
And we're live. Yep.
Were actually women. This, to be clear, women were fighting on the trenches of the Ukrainian war. This, of course, great women were fighting on the trenches of the Ukrainian war. This, of course, great. Now,
Hey, hold on a second, Mario. I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. Can you start over real quick? We didn't have audio, but you're good to go, man. Just go ahead and start over your. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we're good.
Shall I start again from the top?
From the top.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure, why not? Yep.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Straight Talk, a place where we dot the I's and cross the T's. Your host, Mario Abate, the Liquid Monkey. Accompanying me today is Josh Stubble, the Professor Redmill. And of course, Punish Kusan, a man who knows his business in the treacherous world of the American college campus. Gentlemen, welcome, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Today, I have a very, very appalling, I just came across a very appalling news, which happened to be, I saw a video of several Russian soldiers that were filming a recently captured trench in Ukrainian territory that was filled with what seems to be female soldiers. I'm repeating. These Russian troops were appalled that they had killed women in the line of duty. Now, this raises too many questions. Feminists seem to have gotten the so much wanted equality that they were after. After all, now we have women fighting and dying for the motherland. And this, of course, is I wonder now how this is going to affect the morale of the troops, both Russian and Ukrainian. And of course, this leads to another question: is Ukraine ran out of troops that they need to send these women? Now, Josh, as a man who knows his business in international politics, what can you make out of this?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I saw the same video, and it's interesting. But this was also discussed by different influencers and different media outlets, that basically that Zelensky was going to go ahead and start recruiting or at least conscripting women into the military service. I mean, they've already ran out of like military age soldiers. They conscripted up to the age of like 65, I believe. So I mean, it's like, yeah, they're sending like grandpas, grandmas,
Shit
women,
show.
pregnant women, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's just whatever they got left. They are pretty much out of people, from what I understand.
How do you think this is going to affect the overall economic in Europe? After all, Russia has taken over the most fertile and economically productive areas of Ukraine, but nothing seems to be planted and nothing seems to be produced. And nowadays, it seems that that Europe, that once dependent of the now gone Russian gas underwater pipeline that is destroyed, is now suffering severe consequences. What's your opinion out of it? How is Ukrainian war nowadays, after 2 years of ongoing war, being affected overall in Europe? And is Europe after now with the unimpeded advance of the Russian army going to do something in order to prevent the Russians to capture more land, or will accept the Russian victory and deal in new terms?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this on my locals channel. I've talked about this in the Telegram channel as well. My what I had said at the beginning of the conflict is that Russia's primary objective was to basically fortify Crimea, as well as liberate the Donbass region. Once they were able to liberate those and annex them into the Russian proper, or to the Russia as Russian citizens, it was mission accomplished. So after that, they built fortifications along the Donbass region to protect those territories from a possible counteroffensive or invasion, which we saw the several counteroffensives failed because of those defenses were so fortified. So I don't think Russia's going to go any further west than what they've decided to go. I think the purpose was to basically liberate those regions. They've done it. They were successful, and at this point, it's basically just try to fortify and create a DMZ. I predicted all this a year before, right around the time that it occurred, even before the actual conflict. I was saying that Russia was prepared; they were going in within days, and I was spot on exactly what they did to the T of the military operation, as well as what transpired over the year and a half that it's been going on. I also predicted that the conflict would start to slow down after failed counteroffensives in January, that I posted on my local channel as well, and that basically, because of the economic burden that the Ukrainian government, in order to run the country, as well as the military equipment, the personnel, the support coming from NATO and the United States, would start to dwindle down because of continued failed operations or counteroffensives on the Ukrainian part, and that eventually there would be an economic recession in the fall that Gerald Slente also predicted rather, and that this would greatly affect that particular conflict, which it has in a sense. But I said that shortly after the de-escalation, there would be another conflict in another part of the world that would require the United States resources and NATO to be sent to those regions, and then Ukraine would no longer be of relevance in the mainstream media, and within a year it'd be memory hold, and no one would even remember what happened or anything about it. That actually happened, but it was because of Israel. I thought it was going to be because of Taiwan, but Taiwan is also an issue, and it's a hot topic as well. And that particular conflict is still brewing, as we saw with Xi Jinping that visited Biden recently at the White House, where Biden basically referred to him as a dictator. So that conflict could easily spin out of control, in which the United States will have a three-front war, which I'm also predicting between Ukraine-Russian conflict, Hamas, Gaza, Israel conflict, and a Taiwan, Japan, North Korea, China conflict. And this is basically World War III that I was predicting that would happen in this by election year 2024.
Let's just put on our tinfoil hats for a second. Let's imagine. Let's get on our conspiranoic thoughts, thinking caps. Do you think there's any connection, any communication or business between Russia and Hamas, or they could be triangulating third parties into helping Hamas, because helping them would weaken Israel and therefore would weaken the United States, weaken the effort of the Ukrainian army? Are you? Could you give us an opinion about
I'd
that?
actually like to comment on this, but actually, go first, Josh.
Yes.
Yeah, all I'll say is what I know. What I because like I said, I'm an expert in the Black Sea and the Caucasus region, particularly. I teach at the International University in the region, so this is stuff that comes up all the time that we talk about and that we basically research and analyze. And from what I understand, Russia's primary objective is Syria because of their military bases in the region and protection of they're allied with Syria. So the thing is that Syria has a lot of different conflicts right now. There's different like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in Syria. So Syria is more of the focus in that regard. So if Syria, obviously we're seeing Syrian independent fighters getting involved in the greater Israeli regional conflict. But for the most part, I don't think Russia is really. I think they're kind of neutral, other than what's going on in Syria. They're protecting, or at least that's their allied partner. Now, Iran is believed by experts and of course the State Department that they are heavily involved in the Hamas Gaza conflict and supplying weapons and support and money and so on and so forth. But they're not. I don't think there's any real direct link with Russia other than maybe through Syria or through Iran. That's what I think.
Polish Gusano, you wanted to chime in and add something. Please go ahead.
I actually agree with Josh. Any interest that Russia would have in the current Middle East conflict would be surface level at best, and like he said, through Syria. He's correct. They're behind Bashar. They're not too interested in Palestine as of right now. However, the history of the Soviet Union and Russia and the Palestinian resistance can't be ignored. In the fact that one of the biggest reasons that the American modern conservative wing is so anti-Russia is because, of course, Zionism in the Republican Party, but also the biggest thing was the Soviets backed the Palestinians back in the 70s. A lot of people don't talk about this. How the modern conservative the modern neoconservative movement, part of the founding was Soviet backing of socialist Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank during the 60s and 70s. So it's not a completely unfathomable link, but I do agree. I just wanted to give some of that background, but I actually do agree completely with Josh's analysis. But it's not something that is completely out of the realm of possibility because of the history. Russia to this day does still do has kept a lot of its at least sociability with countries that it was friendly with during the Soviet era. It hasn't abandoned those countries completely. And we see that with China. We see with its neutrality towards North Korea, Vietnam, and of course, its eternal friendship with India, since it backed India when everybody was pro-Pakistan, when that was convenient a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's all the background I wanted to give.
You, Josh and Polish Gusano, mentioned. Yes, please go ahead. Josh, you're muted. Go ahead.
No, I understand. I was just trying to state, if you want to know my further analysis, I do think that China is heavily involved in the region. They've been, obviously they've been building military bases throughout the Indian Ocean around the U.S. military trade. So they've been countering each U.S. military base with a Chinese military base from Africa all the way into Southeast Asia. And that's a major trade route for the United States. It's also a very serious military, military forticade, because that's where David Garcia is. That's where the oil is traded and sent from the Gulf Coast and to all the way to the southeast and around Africa and so on and so forth. But the thing is that China has been building alliances. They have government came into GCC and the Middle East to develop trade negotiations as well as influence, and they're also in Afghanistan right now. So I mean, like, they're all over the place, and if anything, they have a huge hand in what's going on in Gaza. I don't know if there's direct links. I'm not saying there's direct links, but they do have a lot of influence in the region. I mean, Saudi Arabia is their largest trading partner in the Middle East right now, in the Gulf Coast region.
Punis Gusano, would you like to say something?
No, I have no further comment. On China, I mean, China's links to the Middle East, much like Russia's, have been historic. Um, the way the Arabs and Africans feel towards the Eastern Europeans and the Asians versus how they feel towards Westerners is very different. This is something that I guess I'll comment. This is something that popped up post World War II. A lot of people don't talk about this. After World War II, the Arabs actually felt and the Africans, for the most part, felt pretty positive towards the United States. They viewed them in part as a friendlier Westerner than the Europeans. Of course, European colonization of Africa, Belgium, Italy, and East Africa, of course, France, England, and Spain, left a lot of the North and Sub-Saharan Africans, as well as some Muslims, of course, in the Middle East, with what was formerly of the Ottomans, that was taken over by the British and French. It left a bad taste of Westerners in the mouths of a lot of Arab Muslims and African Muslims. But the Americans, up until the founding of Israel, were actually viewed very well by the Muslims, and the Russians have always been viewed positively by the Africans. The Africans, a lot of them founded socialist movements during the Cold War, and they still viewed Russia's backing of them as a friendly token of their appreciation, and that's why Russia has been so easily able to do negotiations with African nations. And you're seeing now countries like Uganda, the Western African nations, Ethiopia, South Africa, they're starting to move away from America and Europe because they view most of those Westerners to be dishonest. They're just trying to take over Africa culturally and socially. Yeah, that you give us money, but the things you're bringing into our society, we find repulsive. We find degrading. We look at you guys. Yeah, your countries look beautiful, but underneath the people are vile, to say the least. And so they look at somebody like Vladimir Putin and some of the other Slavic countries, and they view a more traditional form of life, a very Christian form of life. And even the Muslims and majority Muslim countries in sub-Saharan Africa can respect that. So, yeah, I think in the future we're going to see large Chinese and Russian expansion in terms of industry in sub-Saharan Africa, and we're already seeing it because the Chinese come here for industry, or excuse me, go over there to make money. They're not trying to push Chinese culture on Ethiopia. The Russians aren't trying to make everybody speak a Cyrillic language. They're there to make money and benefit both sides. I'll make money, you'll make money. I'll build you this, and I'll make some investment money out of that. Instead of I'll give you $50 million, but you're gonna put feminist studies in your colleges, and you're going to adopt our style of legal code. The Russians and the Chinese aren't trying to do that like the Westerners do, impose their will.
Well, that's yes, that is nothing short of a slap in the face to the Americans who try to impose their will into those African countries. How do you think, this is for Josh and for Punish Musano, how do you think the Americans are reacting to this affront? Because as I believe, the first superpower in the world would not take kindly to be given the finger, so to speak.
Josh, you want to go?
How is United States reacting to this rejection, this downright rejection, and the acceptance of rivals in business rivals as well as ideological rivals?
Mm.
Because we always have this idea that the Chinese and the Russians are the boogeyman because they underneath their spirit or underneath their facade, their spirit never stopped being communist and red, willing to be hell bent into imposing slavery on the nations. That would be the propaganda image that the United States sells with a certain degree of success. Let's recognize. How do you think the United States is reacting to this affront?
Well, I mean, think about China makes a significant amount of U.S. Medications and medical supplies. So if if there's any type of embargo or any type of trade, or at least like a supply line shutdown, we saw that during the bug. I mean, the reality is that it would be economically devastating to the U.S. economy if that were to occur. So it's kind of like China is a necessary evil for the United States as a trading partner.
In a way, United States is has its hands tied by its partnership with China, and therefore China is taking advantage of the let's say let's say economic circumstances that United States is suffering. And this is a question that since both Josh and Punish Gusano are living inside the United States, my question to you is why doesn't the United States create its own industry instead of depend of China? What do you think are the hidden interests that prevent the American entrepreneurship and business spirit to to fulfill a need and become independent?
Josh? Okay, I'll go. I'll go.
Uh, yeah,
Please,
go ahead.
please, let's. Punish Gusano goes first,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Josh goes second.
yeah, yeah.
Punish Gusano, please be ahead.
One of the reasons is because for certain interests in the United States, um, if you were to bring industry back stateside, it would raise the cost of certain things. Um, However, that's kind of being nullified with the fact that we import everything and the prices are still going up, but the prices would be initially much higher. Second, there is a political motive in that if you were to bring back industry, certain certain staples of our society, university would be one of the biggest, would not be the only pathway. People could go into other jobs, into trades much easier, or just go work at a job like a factory, and make a good living like they used to. So there's a lot of societal staples that would lose a lot of money and social power if industry were to be brought back. And also, it's just very hard. I remember Gonzalo Lira made a very good analogy based on a story. The story goes, just to be brief, that there was this guy in Boston that made heart shaped chocolate boxes, and he had a specific machine he made for it. Nobody else had it, and the company that bought from him eventually started making the boxes in China instead of in Boston. And after I think it was like 6 or 8 months, customers started reporting that the glue that the Chinese used smelled bad. And of course, this wouldn't be appealing as a Valentine's gift to give a chocolate box that stank to your significant other. So of course, eventually the chocolate company went back to the guy in Boston and said, "Hey, look, we'll go back with you guys. These boxes stink. The glue's smelly." And the guy said, "Look, I had to let everybody go. They're all doing different stuff now. I had to scrap the machine for money. It took me 3 years to make that machine. It would take me another 3 years to to replicate it, and then I have to teach people how to use it. You know, it's kind of like craftsmanship. There's craftsmanship that dies with the craftsman, and it's that same spirit where when you when you let a factory die, you can't just pop it back up in a couple of months. You have to reteach people. The people that knew are gone. So you're never guaranteed that same level of production. It would be very hard to do that on a grand scale. And also the United States in terms of employment is demoralized completely.
It strikes me as a slow decline. I mean, going into the sweep of history, it talks to me about a slow decline because I believe this is not it is not an isolated case. It's happening all across the country. They're making a lot of men unemployed, a lot of women forcing to become OnlyFans models and
Yep.
content creators, completely destroying the industrial American industrial power
Yep.
base. Um, this, of course, leads to another questions like who benefits from this? I mean, there is a lot of people who benefit. Who can you imagine benefiting from the violence and the despair and the misery of millions of uh, Americans on foot? The rank and file American citizens who is trying to make ends meet, not always succeeding it every day. Banksters, I would imagine in one sense. But isn't that shooting on your foot? Because they're killing the very market that they're trying to appease. Who's gonna buy what they sell? Who's gonna buy houses when nobody has a job to get a house? See my point?
Hmm. I guess I'll let Josh go on this one.
Yeah, I mean the situation is even if like they were to bring back manufacturing to the United States or in North America for that matter, um, there's no one skilled to work those jobs. So I mean, you're in a stalemate where you're going to have to bring the labor from China or wherever your plant was to America, and you're going to have to give them HB visas. I mean, you're going to have to give them immigrant visas to work because you won't
I
have
believe
anyone
you
skilled
mentioned
locally to hire.
I believe you mentioned before that one of the biggest weapons of the American supremacy is that visa, the HB something.
Yeah, the
Because
HB visa. It's basic. It's a work visa that's given to people of special skills. So, like in this situation, engineers, manufacturers, and people that have the skill in order to work in the factories. So, like I said, most people. I mean, what is America? What is the major economic? And who's the largest employer for one? Private and public, and what is it that America makes? You know what I mean? The largest employer
I
is
would very
Walmart.
much like to know that.
U.S. military.
Walmart's the largest private employer. Amazon and like I said, the largest like job field is service, military. So you're either going to work for the government through the military industrial complex or directly for the government in the military, or you're going to be working in for the federal or state government as like a cop or guard or like a jail guard or postal serviceman or whatever. It's all service jobs. It's a service-based economy, and you've heard this many, many times in the past. And you'll hear it continually. We were a manufacturing country. We were an industrialized country, just like the UK, just like Canada, and all of Europe. Pre World War or sorry, post World War II. But in the 90s and 80s, jobs started going overseas, and they started rapidly going overseas under the Clinton administration in the West. I mean, it is what it is. The economy is in shambles. There is no skilled labor. There's no the unions have been dismantled. We saw that with the automotive workers strike. It went nowhere because they have no power. They could just say, "I'll just go to Mexico. I'll go to Vietnam. I'll go to China. I'll go to Argentina. I'll go wherever where we can put a plan in that country." And the employees would work for a substantially less salary, and they could be trained to do the same work at the same volume. mean, it is what it is.
The question, this is what strikes me as, is that if corrupt people would lobby to put into the administration of a company, of a profitable and efficient company, a corrupt individual who destroys the company. We have a word in Spanish. Polish Gusano, be so kind to help me here. Vaciamiento, the emptying, the intentional
Hollowing out would be the
empty,
best way. Hollowing out.
which,
Hollowing.
again, please,
Hollowing.
hollowing,
When you make something hollow,
hollowing.
yeah, it's hollowing out.
Yes, an intentional hollowing out of the company, in this case, United States, to buy it on pennies on the dollar. Who would be interested in hollowing out the United States? Josh, if you were so kind. Or we have a new guest, EJ, listening. If you were so kind to either type or speak, you'll be most welcome. Polish Gusano, if you would like to chime in, you're welcome to do so. I really don't know who would benefit, because this is the thing. Yes, it is true that United States business is war. However, United States private companies are everywhere in the world, giving jobs to millions and millions of people. For example, McDonald's. I mean, you can argue that McDonald's could be any sort of fraudulent. They sell poison, yes, but how many people live off it? Genuine jobs, the same as Coca-Cola or Walmart or other companies in the United States. Destroying United States is also destroying those companies, which may be multinational, yes, but their central spiritual base is the United States.
Well,
What do you think? Please,
I
Gusano, please.
think that this might be controversial, but I actually think that left-wing politicians would benefit heavily from the hollowing out of the United States, especially the more radical sects in the Democratic Party, the younger, the what are they called, the Special Three, Ilhan, ALC, and I always forget the other one, the other girl. But yeah, there's a large sect of left-wing radicals that would actually love to see the hollowing out of the American workforce. This was written about, I believe, in the late 1900s, about how if you actually look at the attitude of radical leftists towards American workers, it's very negative. Of course, they view the American work ethic, what they call the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant work ethic, as an extent of like capitalism and a bigotry. They view it as
So white
oppressive.
supremacy, I
Yeah,
believe that's
yeah,
the word
yeah.
you're
They
looking
use
for.
it. They use Yeah, because they think that imposing a strong work ethic on minorities that come to America is just a further application of colonialism within their own country. So they would
Like
actually love to
working them to death.
yeah, working them to death is what they view it. Or really, like for example, there's been a big push to allow like black Americans to have their more unorthodox hairstyles in the workforce. That's been a big push by Democrats and left wingers in the United States in the last decade. Because they view that asking black Americans not to have like afros in the workplace is discriminatory and putting them up to white beauty standards and working standards, which I find ridiculous. But whatever. That's
I
neither here nor
believe
there. Go ahead.
I believe the end goal of that. This is something extreme. I mean, think about this. Patrice O'Neill, a great comedian and also a philosopher, said also that the curtailing of language in white men is a way of a reparation for the slavery,
Yep.
because now any white man needs to tiptoe when it goes next to a black person,
Yep.
even when the application of the N word is something that black people use to derogate to
Yep.
call out the bad behavior of other black men.
Yep.
But white men are not allowed to say that, to call out the behavior of black men, of the lesser black men, because they will be accused of discrimination. This makes them victims, because if you cannot put a limit into somebody who is harming you, you're essentially a victim.
Yep.
See my point?
100%.
And this is the thing. I mean, strangely, a black man can, any black man, no matter how higher or lesser he is in his character, can berate a white man, no matter how high or less is his character. See my point? This creates a constant friction that, of course, is fostered by the powers that be, both black, white, and bankster.
Yep. No, I 100%
Now, this, of
agree.
course, comes links to I'm sorry, this dovetails with what we were talking a couple of weeks ago. That this. I'm sorry. I'm going to put down my. I got a little bit carried away. Can you hear me now better?
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. No, you're clear. You're just a little loud, but you're good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just that I let myself be carried away.
The emotion's
you
there,
can
man.
blame
The
it on my
emotion's there. It's good.
you can blame it on my Roman roots, my Italian.
Yeah, I mean it's great, man. You can tell from our podcast that we're really passionate about what we're talking about. I mean, we're not just here grifting on topics like and MGTOW and all that stuff. We actually care about what we talk about. We're well researched, so like I said, it's fun.
We are grifting, but we put our money where our mouth is.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
But if
So,
I can follow up my point,
this is the thing.
Once you're done, Mario.
Yes, this is the thing. For the people listening to us, if I was to say something to them as a moral of any story, is do not allow yourself to be carried away in these current events that are designed to destroy your spirit and remove and separate it from your money. Because at one point, if you get carried away in this, we should, in this leftist thing, even if it sounds as right and moral as it is, because there's one thing: the difference between reasoning and rationalizing. Reasoning is, of course, arriving to some mental and cognitive tools, logic tools, to arrive to the truth and act upon it. Rationalizing is to accommodate these tools to fix a perceived narrative that, of course, makes you believe in something. For example, let me give you this example. Jordan Peterson mentions a book called Ordinary Men. This is a book written with the testimonies of men, German men, who were in part of the Einsatzgruppen. These were the extermination troops that were not Wehrmacht, they were not a regular army, and they were SS. And they were in charge of killing undesirable elements. Some of them elder, and some of them children. And when they start talking about them, they would give the most ridiculous on a cold mind, on a cold intelligent mind. They would give the most ridiculous excuses on how they did what they did, on why and how and what for they did what they did. For example, one of them said that they would kill a Jewish child to liberate his soul from living a disgraceful Jewish existence. This, of course, as a self-reassuring matter, could be valid because after all, they did pull the trigger. But anybody who would listen to that would not buy it. The same happens here. We are being in a cultural war with leftist groups that are trying to convince you that the sky is green. The sky is not green. I'm sorry. I would like to go to separate a little from what we're talking about inside the United States and talk a little bit about China, because I had some questions about the last topic that we were talking, that apparently China has many interests in Africa and the Middle East, that they are not intending to advance militarily unless, of course, attacked. My question to Josh and Punish Busano is: How mighty is the Chinese military? It is because, as I would imagine, they would be very eager and emboldened to advance against Taiwan. Advancing against Taiwan would mean that the nuclear missiles would fly. What's your opinion about that, Josh? On Punisgusan.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like I've actually I was in China extensively for several months working on a project, as an educator. And the people, from what I heard, this was pre the bug. They said there was economic situation and there was some civil upheavals. I don't know. I wasn't in Hong Kong, but I heard there was even more civil disobedience. So the thing is that China is dealing with internal struggles as well as external struggles. I mean, they're competing with other emerging markets like India and Russia on the global scale, which is the point of like the BRICS basically is to try to work together for a multipolar world. But unfortunately, for China, they still are competing with with Brazil, Russia, the West, and India. And India is one of the fastest growing economies as far as in the emerging market. So the situation is with China is, yeah, maybe they could take Taiwan, but unfortunately, if they take Taiwan, how's it going to help them with their global economic development? Is it going to do like what happens to the United States with Ukraine and currently with Israel? The current situation in the United States, their legitimacy in the world, especially in trade and the GCC and the Middle East, is deteriorating every day that this conflict continues. So if China were to, try to annex Taiwan, invade, and that affects the global marketplace with microchips, you don't think that people in Japan or Korea are going to be upset that they can't buy new cell phones because they don't have the chips to put in them, or people in America can't go buy a brand new truck? Get my truck. Americans in their trucks and SUVs, they won't be able to purchase a brand new truck or SUV because the microchips needed for those trucks and SUVs are not coming because Taiwan is at war. So I mean, this is the war that I was talking about when I was writing about January 31st with the Ukrainian war coming down to a closure. Ukraine doesn't produce anything other than food. They're a large agricultural base. They have
Food is
oil.
very good.
Yeah, of
Food
course. They're
being a
one of
big
the
part of
largest.
America.
They're one of the largest producers of wheat, and we're seeing that now with food shortages throughout the world, and especially in the United States. If you've ever been to the grocery, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those listeners that are from America. Yes. Another subject. We'll go on to that in a minute. But like I said, I'll just conclude with my point. These wars affect people. They affect people regionally and in the countries that they're fighting, but they also have greater global effects, like the butterfly effect. So a conflict in Taiwan is going to greatly affect the economy, much more severe than Ukraine and Israel. And that's why it's a very serious situation economically. And that's what I was saying about Ukraine would not be able to continue the conflict because a Taiwanese war would create so much economic turmoil that it would majorly affect that military operation on both sides. So now we have Israel, and this is going to eventually affect energy prices. It will. It is going to. And I predicted a $200 a barrel price by election by November next year. You will see $200 price a barrel, and that is going to happen if this conflict continues. I can guarantee that. You take that to the bank. That's going to happen. Right now, it's trading at $80 a barrel, but I was predicting about 150 towards the end of December. We'll see. I mean, like I said, and like I said, with the oil prices and the oil trading, this all comes down to what's going on in OPEC in Russia, as well as in Venezuela and other places, the oil-rich producing countries. But like I said, if there's embargoes against Iran, if there's embargoes against, Saudi decides we're no longer trading oil with Europe or the West because of what's going on, like I said, you'll start seeing, and it'll be regional. It'll be more regional than it will be global. It'll be like, the U.S. will run out of like oil. You will see energy shortages. You will see gas stations pumping dry. And we're already dealing with that right now with the diesel crisis because we're running out of diesel in the West. But that's it. I'm done. We can go on to the next topic if you want to.
Polish Gusano, would you like to say something?
No, I mean, Josh said everything I really would have said. He's right about the food shortages. I've seen it myself. I was actually mentioning it to you guys privately. Might have been 2 weeks ago where I was going. This was like 4 p.m. on a Saturday. I had to go to 3 or 4 different Publixes to get potato wedges. I mean, something so innocuous as potatoes. They said, I asked them. I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is the second or third one I've been to. What's up? Do you guys? Yeah, the shipments we're coming of potatoes that are coming in are just smaller and smaller amounts, and we've sold them out." Said they told me you're not the first person to mention how little our stock is today. It's everybody's noticing it. The employees are noticing it. The customers are noticing it. It's widespread. The shelves are emptier and emptier every time I go.
I find appalling what you're telling me. How is it that United States, the biggest producer of goods and services in the world, is running out of food? Don't you have Kansas, legendary known by being the breadbasket of the world? Could you please explain to me what's
Do you want
going
me to
on?
answer?
By all means.
Do you want me to answer that in a simple or complex term? I'll answer it simply.
All right, let's go.
The farm bills.
Answer it simple, and I will be asking you complex questions as I may not understand.
Sounds good. Simple answer is the United States has started relying more on imported foods in order to keep food stocks plentiful throughout the year. This has been going on for a while now. It's actually accelerated due to the bug again, supply issues. The other issue is a labor shortage. There's a lot of people that aren't wanting to work in farm, and also immigration policies. Because most of the workers in these farming communities are immigrants from South America and Mexico and so on and so forth. Because of the Trump's bills for the I-9, and which I-9 basically verifies that you're a U.S. citizen, you're legally eligible to work in the United States. Well, in places like Florida, they enforce that very heavily. And a lot of these conservative states, because of this anti-immigration, they're enforcing those I-9s. They don't realize that those workers are essential to basically creating food. I remember when I posted about the H-1 bill, the visa. We have another visa that's a farm visa. I haven't done any research on it yet, but I think I will, and for another podcast, and I'll come back to it on that. You probably will see those aren't really being issued as much as they were before, because of because of the reliability. I mean, like, look at our food manufacturing. Was it Nabisco? Was it the Oreos?
Nabisco,
They're made in
yeah.
Mexico now.
Yeah.
Nabisco, yeah, that company now, a lot of that's all manufactured in Mexico coming, and Trump mentioned that a while ago.
And our fruits are
But
made in
this is
Brazil.
yeah, all our fruits coming from South America, like I said. It's like I said, if we bring back manufacturing, like we said before, if we bring back manufacturing, we're still going to have to bring these people that where our manufacturing was back to the United States to work in those fields, in those plants. The same as our agriculture. They're like this. They're like, hey, there's too much regulation, and there's not enough immigrants to come in to work these jobs. Local people don't want to work those jobs. They're very skilled and very, very, very difficult. And a lot of people want to become TikTok stars, and they want to go and study whatever, basket weaving or gender studies. So basically, yeah. So basically, they have to send those jobs back to where those people are from, usually those workers, those skilled workers. So these plants, these agricultural companies they're basically subletting the land, and they're employing local, basically these workers, and they're shipping it to the United States as raw materials. I think China's doing the same thing in the Midwest as well as around the world. It's not a new concept. China's doing it, the United States is doing it, everybody's doing it. But it is what it is.
We have a couple of comments from AJ that are worth a thought. One of them is that the leftist elite hate people who benefit of the technological evolution and got lazy through this easy life we live, and in the better labor rights we got through the leftist movements in the 2000s. People got richer but still have some kind of conservative mindset and want to take away this good life of all of us as a revenge. Then he says, it's like a passive aggressive revenge to those who didn't kiss the feet of those who fought for better labor rights in the past. What would be your opinion about
Can you repeat
EJ's
the
comment?
question?
Yes. Let me see.
Oh, I see
Jesus,
it.
I
I
got
see
some.
it. I
Okay.
see it. The leftist elite hates people who benefit of the technological evolution and got lazy through this easy life we live. Excuse me. the better the better
Don't
labor
die on
rights
us.
we got through. I'm gonna try not to. The better labor rights we got through leftist movements in the 2000s. People got richer, but still some kind of conservative mindset and want to take away this good life of all of us as revenge. It's like yeah, he's actually not wrong about that. If you look at the
How
Democrats,
so?
if you look at well, leftists, I wouldn't call them leftists because leftists wouldn't. It's always weird with left wingers. They like the purity spiral, but basically, yeah, he's not wrong. A lot of the Democratic wing during the late 1900s, early 2000s, 100% are a little bit upset that the agricultural core of America, the worker force of America, didn't completely stay with them like they thought they would. Yeah, right. The Democrats are always the big union guys in the last 4 decades, and you're seeing that shift
Well, even
now.
before,
Go ahead.
even as well, like the Northern Republicans and the Northern Democrats like work together
Yeah,
because they both support unionization
yeah, but with the
because it
hyper
benefits both.
capitalization, that started to split with the
Mhm.
neoconservatives who were
Oh,
super
100%.
anti-union because they were just
Yeah.
pure open markets, open everything, invisible hand. But he's right. They used to work together on this, but they shifted a lot with the neocons when the paleoconservatives like Buchanan left, were shot out of the party. Yeah, he's not wrong about that. 20th century, not 2000s. Yeah, still, if you look at the time period, yeah, a lot of the Democrats hold resentment towards the working class because of this, and
You
especially
know
when they
who this
voted for
reminds
Trump.
me of? Do you remember in the election campaign when Joe Biden he said this? I mean, he said this. I'm verbatim. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Jay Black.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, and there
because
was a huge
the
uproar.
Democrats have
It's
such
like
a strong hold over the African American and minority community, and they view it as a guarantee. You look at campaign maps;
as a proper
they
the
don't go
irony.
anymore.
They see them as property.
Yeah, they don't go to black areas anymore because they know that at worst they will vote Democrat 91%. At worst, the lowest
You're
black vote for
shitting me.
Democrats is 91% from black Americans. They're the
It's
only
a this
people that
is
high. The next highest is Latinos, and they vote 2/3, so about 65%.
I I want to ask you this now that we just talking about this. What were the mainstream media? This is something I don't know because clearly I don't watch a lot of American TV. I might be informed on American news via social media, but I don't watch American TV. What was the response of American media on those minorities who voted for Trump or who claimed to support
Race
Trump?
traders. They view them as race
The,
traders and extensions of white supremacy. There's been a lot of articles in the last three
Uncle
years.
Tom's.
Yeah, no, they just call them straight up white supremacists. There's been a lot of articles in in the mainstream news talking about the rise of like white of all of like far right nationalism amongst Hispanics and specifically like Catholic nationalists. That's why Merrick Garland viewed Catholic nationalists as a terrorist threat to the United States. And that's why he had to go to the Judiciary Committee to comment about this because it is discriminatory and it's against the First Amendment to view somebody who's traditionally religious, especially a Christian, um, as a terrorist threat. Yeah, there's been articles about this about the how not all white nationalists are white. That the sense of
Eh,
Europeanism is big amongst other minorities.
AJ said something interesting. The left is like an incel who buys a girl drink with the expectation that she will open her legs after buying drink, and if she doesn't, he will get angry about the girl and not about himself.
True.
This These dovetails with what we said, some time ago about the character of the person who will join a corporation in order to belong. Sneaky beta who will want to derive benefits and not doing what is right,
Yep.
which is improve yourself. This okay, I the only image that they can find of that is that at one point the good moral man who lives on the street will have to do something about it because he's being eaten alive by lesser men.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Punis was kind of that your life in college campus. There's a lot of these people.
Yep.
Do you think this is increasing or this is somewhat? I mean, is there any backlash? Is there any good Christian, masculine, conservative men which are growing and counteracting this onslaught by miserable people? Or is this is just a tide that is going to engulf us all?
I actually think there is quite a few. We saw this in 2016 when let's be real, nobody expected Trump to win in the mainstream. The polling was far off. And what happened that night? A lot of younger men who were just in the voting age where it came out to support Trump in the late of night to get him into office. And you saw the pushback on January 6th after the election was let's say for the election was unprecedented for. So for in terms of safety of the stream, let's call the election unprecedented in 2020, and we saw the reaction after that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of men that are disgruntled. They're kind of like the movie Fight Club. They're sleeper agents. They're not open about it because they know what will happen. The vocal minority will kill them one by one because they're not a collective yet.
There's a seething
Yeah.
resentment.
Yeah, I mean, dude, men understand when something is wrong, even if they can't identify the source of it or what it is specifically. It's an innate thing with men. Men specifically, women don't really have this. They can kind of live in whatever. Men have this ability to understand that something is wrong, and they'll seek answers, whether those answers are correct. But you can't lie. Men under can't live in a lie for very long without destroying themselves.
Josh, would you like to say something about it?
Yeah, what exactly would you like me to input? Explain again.
Well, clearly, I mean, as a white Anglo-Saxon man, although Catholic, but of Norman ancestry, do you see many of your peers seething and understanding tacitly that they are being attacked by people who hate them, not for what they did, but more for what they are, and even deeper for what they represent? They hate
I
you
mean, the thing
not.
is, it's like, I mean, I would say for the most part, I grew up in West Tampa, which is predominantly a Hispanic part of Tampa. I mean, I grew up in South Florida. So, I mean, I grew up around a lot of diversity, and most of my brothers speak Spanish fluently. I speak it so, but I also speak multiple languages as well, and I travel abroad. I actually feel more comfortable around other cultures and other races, predominantly the Caucasus and the Middle East. And the people are very friendly, much friendlier than Americans, and they're more willing and open. Like I said, wherever I travel, people don't they prefer to speak in English, even if my language and the local dialect is decent enough to have a conversation. They're very inquisitive, and what I mean is they're very curious about America, and they're very curious about me as a person and an Anglo, or at least basically a Norman Anglo-Saxon living abroad. And I'm very well open and okay to talk about it, and what I noticed is that, and this was on another podcast that we talked about that I explained. I don't know if that one got deleted or what happened, but I'll re-explain. Basically, the
Sorry,
Americanization.
they say that the public renews. So it's always good to go back, to call back to all information, because the public renews, the audience renews,
Yeah, of course.
refreshes.
Yeah, like I said, like it's just we'll go back over it. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so the reality is that I was talking about how I believe that America is going to collapse soon, because we're basically the next Rome, and we're in the final stages of an economic as well as a cultural collapse, just like Rome was, just like Greece, and just like the UK. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think that the United States is going to end as a country or whatever, but you're starting to see the loss of our territories and our bases overseas. They're closing a lot of the bases down. They're restructuring things. We're losing a lot of the United States is losing a lot of influence in the world, and this is part of a dying empire. This is the result of that. Just like you saw in the French Empire, the British Empire, Roman Empire, Greek, and so on. The reality is that everybody likes the American culture overseas. I talked about this Americanization. They like the great things that America provides culturally, um,
But not
but they just don't like
the
they don't like the politics. Yeah,
exactly the
yeah. So
imposition
so
of
like in
woke,
Arabia for it,
the imposition of woke. I was thinking.
yeah, yeah, the woke culture. But some countries embrace the woke culture. You're starting to see it in Europe. It's prevalent, and you're starting to see it throughout the world as well. So America really is a cultural hub for the rest of the world in a lot of ways, and it's that through the media, through the music, through the food, through different types of things that America has. America is got its tentacles everywhere, and I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'll give you
Oh
an
man,
example. I was in northern Saudi Arabia on working on a project near the Iraqi
yeah.
border, and I was working with a Syrian national, and he was helping me translate in Arabic, to around the area, ordering food and things. We went to a restaurant, and one of the individuals that was working there was an Iraqi, and I remember very, very as if it was yesterday, and he was like, I don't like America. He said this in Arabic, of course. He said, I don't like America. I don't, they destroyed my country, and I hate all Americans. And I'm like, I was like, dude, I understand. And my friend was like, he was explaining to him in Arabic. He's like, dude, this isn't that American that is a scumbag. Like, he's not that type of neocon type person. He's a very open minded, a very friendly person, and also Orthodox. So like very very open to religions, and he was really upset. And I really feel bad for him. I really feel bad because I can't do any. I can't personally. I cannot do anything to apologize. I'm not apologizing for this for America. You know what I mean? I'm
It,
apologizing for what they're doing in these countries.
it rings different when the oppressor and the oppressed have faces looking at you that have
Yeah,
nothing
it's
to
real.
do.
I mean, it's Yeah, and this is why the American Department of State doesn't want Americans going overseas. They prefer you stay in America because they don't want you to put a face to what they do overseas. The stuff that they're involved in.
Polish Gusano, would you like to add something on it? I think your opinion on how the foreigners. I would assume that there are many foreigners in the college campus that you are. How do they see United States? Do they lobby against the United? Do you see any resentment, or because they live in the college campus inside the United States, they're all loving the American culture? What do you get?
Um, yeah, the thing with college kids is the kids that they bring over are already liberalized and view America as the golden city on the hill, so they're not going to dissent. They're not bringing over jihadists, excuse me, to
No,
America.
I
They're
would
not
imagine not.
bringing Chinese nationals who feel like Xi is number one. They're going to bring in people from Hong Kong or people from Beijing that are a little bit more liberalized, open to the American form. But what Josh is talking about is 100% true. Um, I remember during 9/11, after it happened, there was a journal found by one of the jihadis, and whether that journal is real is neither here or there, but he did write that one of the reasons that they did the attack was because of American meddling in the Middle East, of course, backing Israel, but also the destruction of Iraq, the meddling in Syria, the meddling in Afghanistan, the meddling in Pakistan. They were sick of it. They were sick of the meddling, the destruction. America would either bomb your nation to death or kill its entire government and then supplant their own puppets, usually the CIA, to do whatever they wanted. And they would arm you only as long as you fought their opponents. As soon as their opponents were vanquished, you were the new target. Well, we got to get rid of you now because you don't fit our vision for your country.
Are you talking about? I think we might be talking about the same paper because I think yesterday or the day before, I came across some news about a letter written by Osama bin Laden that was rediscovered by leftist university students that they said that they agreed to a T to the plight of Osama bin Laden on why he carried out the so alleged bombings of the so alleged terrorist attack of 9/11.
Yep.
Are we talking about the same? Are you familiar with this
We
news?
might be.
Okay.
But
Now,
regardless, the sentiment
this
was
is
the
the thing
same.
that.
Was the meddling? The meddling.
Please go ahead.
No. I'm just saying we might be talking about the same journal. We might not be, but the sentiment is the same.
Yes. Now, let's do a little bit of a let's do a mental exercise. We all think maybe this is the self fulfilled prophecy, or we all think this trepidating feeling that the shit's gonna hit the fan in a couple of years. We're talking about some countries are going to be nuclear bombed to oblivion. Some countries are going to war toe to toe in armies, full strength. We're talking about World War II intensity, but this time with current technology toys. And I was just listening to Josh what he said 5 minutes ago regarding that the United States as a union of states. Do you think the United States will engage in sort of low intensity civil war that will eventually split its its this position, or do you think the United States will somehow remain the 52 states?
I think it'll what I think will happen is I don't think the 50 states will secede. None of those guys are ever serious about it when they talk about it. That's all fronting. We saw it with California. We've seen it with Texas. Greg Abbott can flex all he wants, and that sentiment can go all the way down his chain of command. But they won't do it. The American government would never let them. But I do think that America will have continued civil strife. We'll keep seeing more and more summers of love where some criminal gets like beat up by a cop. So 6 American cities have to burn down, and then we have to have an autonomous. You guys remember Chaz? That was completely memory
Uh,
hold. That was, dude. They
Yeah,
literally in the
yeah.
city of Seattle, or was it Portland?
Come again, please,
And
because I do
this was
remember
in
Rodney King.
Seattle. I like this is by the University of Washington like campus. Like this is in like the cultural hub of the city of Seattle, like downtown
One
Seattle.
hundred
So
percent.
literally this was unprecedented. And I mean,
Yep.
like the thing is Capitol Hill is kind of an artsy college type
Yep.
area or neighborhood within Seattle. I've been there a couple of times. I went to school in Evergreen, so
Yep.
I'm well familiar with Capitol Hill. But I totally see it. I mean, like it's like, oh, Capitol Hill just is becoming an autonomous zone. It's like, oh yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does. It
But like
does.
at the same, yeah, because
Okay,
at the same
just
time,
for
like
the
it was just crazy. Go ahead.
just for the for I mean, could you please be so kind to explain to me what Chaz is? I like to think that I'm an informed person, but I have no idea. If anybody, please.
Yeah, Chaz stood for the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It was a protest done during the summer of love, back in excuse me, back
Don't
during
die on
20.
us.
I'll try not to. During the summer of love in 2020, and basically far left, mostly pro Black Lives Matter, African Americans
Do you
and
mean
others.
the guy with the Jamiroquai
Yep,
hat?
yep. They took
Oh, okay. Get it.
they
Come on, go
took
ahead.
over Seattle as a protest to police brutality for several weeks. And this became basically an autonomous zone. There was no law enforcement there. They wouldn't go. It became so dangerous that the city medical response, emergency response, medical, fire, and the police would if you were getting if you were getting attacked, let's say as a woman, and you called the police, they would literally tell you, "We can't come over there. There's nothing we can do for
You're
you."
on your own.
Yep, you're on your own, because the mayor of the city literally complied with the protesters, and was not only complied, they were with the protesters, and allowed this to happen. They were handing out machine guns to children. They were killing, they were molesting, they were doing tons of drugs,
No shit.
and this was right in
Like
the
in
middle of
the
the city. If if your apartment happened to be in the occupied zone, you're crap out of luck. Don't even leave your house, bar your door, and hope you have enough food to wait it out. It was this bad. And they were not allowed, emergency services were not allowed by both the mayor, and they were just in fear of what would happen if they went in. I mean, you just had teenagers walking the streets with machine guns in their hands. It was literally the closest to actual insurrection
Mogadishu.
that America has had in a very long time.
This is Black Hawk Down,
Yep.
just with white people and minorities.
No, mostly just minorities. This was a
Okay.
BLM
This is where
protest.
Kyle Rittenhouse appeared.
No. That was in Michigan. This was in
Okay.
Seattle.
But but then again, it's sprouts of violence in what I would imagine as a civilized society. The irony.
Yeah.
And what happened then? I mean,
Oh,
after everything calmed down, some measures were taken because you cannot allow roving bands, Mad Max style, in technicals on civilized first world country
it
cities. I
just
would imagine.
it kind of fell apart. I mean, because the inception from it was chaotic. It was anarchy. They would the way that the leadership struggled to take over was just violence. If one guy wanted to become the leader of Chaz, he shot the leader and his buddies. So it just completely destabilized. Eventually, it became so unruly and so violent that even the people that were supporting it from the outside kind of started receding and backing up, and the people inside ate each other alive, and that allowed Seattle Capitol Hill police to finally come in, clean up the mess, reabsorb that zone into the city, and fix what was going on. But all they really did was just wait for it to eat itself, which I can't give credit to the emergency responders. They were cowards. They waited until they was basically beyond safe for them to go in.
Well, they say fear is no fool.
Yep.
Josh, when I hear this, you know what comes into my mind? The power struggle that the
What?
Huns, the power struggle that the Huns suffer after the death of Attila. Did you listen to what? Did you hear
I'm
what I
not
said?
familiar with that. Yeah, I heard. I'm not familiar with that though.
Well, clearly after Attila
Can you
died,
explain? Like
there was
what happened?
there was nobody charismatic or respectable enough to assume leadership of the whole horde, and eventually the horde began in political strives, and everybody, and I mean literally everybody, wants to be the top man, resorting and killing each other, and eventually being taken over by this is the irony that I would like to point out, that in history the Huns managed to sack Rome, and after the death of its leader, they were so caught up in their own fighting that they were defeated and exterminated and assimilated by the Alamans, the now Germans, which was a tribe that, according to Roman historians, were just coming out of the Stone Age. They were very primitive, and they only benefit, and they came out of the state of squalor because of Roman technology and contact. Now, this is what happens when you got people with very little IQ, a lot of time in their hands, and free and easy access to weapons. Now, is this about to happen again sometime soon? Or did the authorities, with all their budget and all their great minds who studied in private universities, have come up with a plan of contingency?
I don't know. Are you where are you talking about? Are you talking about in America, or are you talking about?
Yes. The idea is that I would imagine that this the as Polish Gusano said, the emergency responders and the authorities were nothing short of embarrassed by being completely humiliated and overrun by a band of illiterate tough guys, which I would imagine there was.
I, I mean, it's kind of, the thing is you have to understand like the left coast, like the California, Oregon, and Washington politics. This was like a political movement, and it was kind of like saying to the establishment that, hey, we're gonna try out autonomous policies and see how they work, just like they legalized drugs in Oregon. And this the progressive movement doing this stuff. And I mean, it goes back to like I said in the other podcast, about California being the largest economy in the country, why the largest in the world. They're the trendsetters. So things that happen in California eventually are going to happen throughout the rest of the country. And it's the same with the European Union trade zone, because the European trade zone is the largest economy in the world, largest trade zone. So the trends in the what comes out of Europe is eventually going to follow the rest of the world. So that's what I mean by European American influence in the world. So the thing is look, if you want to know the trends of how America is going and then the trends for the rest of the world, keep a close eye to California policy and what's going on the West Coast and what's going on in Europe and New York and what's going on in Europe, and you will know what the future is for the rest of the world. That's the best advice I can give you in understanding trends forecasting.
100%.
Polish Gusano, you wanted to say something?
Oh no, dude, he hit it on the head, dude. Yeah, dude, California and New York, those two states are the tastemakers to the United States. There's a reason that those two states themselves have kept the Democratic Party alive for its most entire recent history. Those two states, they're the two.
Well, they're also.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that they're also the two most
Yeah,
populated
I was about to
states in
say
the
that. Yeah,
country. So
they're the
that's
most
also the
populous,
reason for the
and
trend
they
setting.
are when people think America, they think L.A. and New York. It's
Yes,
not even up for
essentially.
debate. Even though Texas is as big as them, no, Texas is seen as it's seen as a
The
Midwestern.
Lonely Star.
Yeah, it's the Lone Star State. It's seen almost like the Midwestern states. Even though in terms of electoral vote, it's up there, and in terms of population and economy, it's up there. Texas could be its own country, much like California can. But like he said, L.A., San Francisco, New York, these are really the
Florida,
pinnacles.
maybe.
That's where all the immigrants used to come through. Was from Asia, they'd come through L.A., and then from Eastern Europe and Western and Eastern Europe, they'd come through New York. So these are staples of America.
EJ said something that would warrant some attention. California is copy pasting the bullshit from Germany in the European Union. Question to EJ: why is California copy pasting the bullshit and not from Germany and not the other way around? Would not be that Germany is actually copy pasting the bullshit of California?
It's because a lot of leftists in the United States view Western Europe as the pinnacle of their socialist utopia. That's why you hear them all say all the time that Sweden is the socialist democratic utopia. Even though Sweden and Denmark and the other Nordic countries will tell you, "Hey, can you please stop calling us that? Our government is nothing like what you guys talk about." But they view it as this way, and they view the same. Germany is the heart of the EU, first economically, and in terms of identity. England's out. Brexit happened. Who's holding it up? Spain with its 80 million Somalis. I mean, Germany. Germany's the core of the EU, and they view something like the EU as the standard America should have in terms of its political society.
So, going back to this, I mean, dovetailing it, you just mentioned that Florida enforced sort of these visas that eventually harm the economy because the unskilled migrants willing to work even for less pay were actually crucial in the development of the industries. This reminds me of something similar to, you know what, Brexit. I understand that many when England or Great Britain uh, eventually seceded from Europe, this of course led a lot of people with invalid visas, and these people were actually humble workers. But that these humble workers were actually the ones who kept the British economy alive, like plumbers, carpenters, truck drivers, and many humble essential people. Yes, this and this of course completely forced England or Great Britain to revise its policy, and of course going back to Europe with its head between its tails. Is something like this happened to United States?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, like I said, you could see this during the 2008 financial crisis. It was the first time in the last 30 years of immigration, or the border rather, that there were less border crossings, and there were actually people returning back to their country of origin, not only in Mexico and like South America, but also in Europe and Asia, because like those, Asia was not affected as bad during the 2008 recession, so a lot of people returned back there for work. And Europe was the same thing at first. They were returning because they were basically unable to find work, and like the credit was destroyed, and um, especially like I said with the migrant immigration, because they couldn't find jobs because people couldn't afford to pay them, and production slowed down.
EJ is sharing with us something. He says GDPR bullshit, for example, regarding of what he just said before, that California was copy pasting Germany's bullshit. I do not know what GDPR is. If anybody of you would so be so kind to
I think that
clarify,
refers to
most
something
obliged.
GDPR.
GDPR. Some I
It's
believe
it's
some political term.
gross GDP is generally gross domestic product. You said it was GDPR.
Yes,
GDPR is the General Data
GDPR.
Protection Regulation.
Oh yeah.
GDPR. GDPR stands for the General Data Protection Regulation. It's a European Union regulation on information privacy, and the European Economic Area. Its important component is U.S. privacy laws, human rights laws, and in particular 8 article chapter of fundamental rights of European Union. So basically, they're a regulatory agency that overlooks economic, human rights, and privacy. So it's kind of like in the United States we have something similar. I think it's the FTC. I don't know if you're probably not familiar with that, but I'm sure
Trade Commission, correct?
Unchained is. Yeah,
He
yeah,
also
it's very
says
similar.
Germany is pushing for the EU bullshit. Germany will increase toll for trucks, increasing CO2 tax, increase VAT from January 1st, which will boost inflation. Lastly, we'll say called CCPA in California, California Consumer Privacy Act. Uh,
Yeah, California. like I said before, California and Europe have very similar policies. They're very progressive regions of the world, and
Extremely.
generally they have very similar types. Extremely, yeah. They have very similar types of economic models and very similar progressive policies that they push. Now, on top of that, the biggest problems that we're going to see in California as well as in Europe is a diesel shortage, a major diesel shortage that is coming in the not too distant future. And this is going to heavily impact the European Union's economic output as well as California. Because of these overreaching regulations with
Yep.
their energy zero carbon emissions, as well as the fact that a lot of our refineries need updating, not only in the United States but in Europe and other countries. We're also in the oil industry as well. We also have personnel deficits. Right now, we have a 70% deficit. A 70% deficit in petroleum engineers to replace the engineers that are in the field right now, and future jobs. Basically, nobody's going to study petroleum engineering. It's one of the. It's like if anyone listening that's looking for that's like like a Zoomer or in high school, and they're like, man, what should I study in school? What's going to guarantee me a job? Number one job, petroleum engineering. Get into that program, study. You'll be guaranteed a job. You'll be making a lot of money. Trust me, in the near future, because we need oil. Oil is not going away. They're finding they've got so many. They got so many known like discoveries. They don't have enough platforms to pump them.
Yep.
That's the reality.
So, okay. This, of course, brings new questions. For instance, as I was listening to you, and you were talking about Germany, I would imagine that Germany is a proud nation. Of course, wouldn't they be proud if they didn't do what they did back in the 20th century? I would imagine that after the discovery that the Nord Stream pipeline that was destroyed by allegedly or suspiciously Americans and British, they wouldn't, and of course, what leads to a very, very hampering of their economic growth by spiking their energy prices. They wouldn't take too kindly the how do you say, the influence of United States, and of course, understanding that actually what I understand is that the newer generations, they see the 20th century in a different light. It's like I want to I see those times as the moment where they didn't fuck with us. And now you're seeing Germany nothing short of a vassal state of the United States and England. Germany and England having conflicts back into 1,000 years old. How do you think this is? I mean, let's not also considering that Germany is the leader of Europe, is the locomotive that pulls the European growth. I like to think that two generations
Yeah, Germany.
later. Sorry, let me finish with this. I like to think that two generations after the death of Mustache Man, his dream of having a unified, strong, virile, masculine Germany, telling a subservient decadent Europe where to go, has come true.
Not in the way he wanted.
You're right there, but nevertheless. But yes, you are right. Not the way he wanted, but nevertheless. Now, how is this faring on Germany? Just
Horribly.
of course, the German rank and file, German on foot, and the government and its spiritual zeitgeist.
You want to go for it, Josh?
I mean, as far as Europe, yeah, as far as European economy is concerned, basically Germany is the economy of Europe. And I'm not saying that like bold statement or anything. Germany is a very significant part of the European economy. As far, yeah, industry, currencies, like trade, and as far as diplomatic ties. France is also another very key player in Europe. But the reality is like what's interesting about European Union is that they have unelected permanent party members in Brussels. They in the European Union, their parliament or whatever, they basically are given permanent status from these different countries. They're not elected; they're just appointed and they're put in power, and they pass the policies that affect the European Union as a whole.
Wow.
The European Council.
I believe that you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh. Germany is in a very strong position in terms of its economic power. It is the heart. We saw this with the endless bailouts of some of these Mediterranean countries that are
I
joining the EU.
remember.
Greece, we're looking at you. But also, the problem is though that Germany has the culture and soul of it has been absolutely destroyed. Part of it has been the shame brought on externally because of the event that happened 80 years ago. And so, because of
Yes.
that event, Germans feel like almost disgusting about themselves, which is not good. If I remember,
Self-hatred or shame.
I think this happened 1 or 2 years ago. They came out with a census of the ethnic makeup of modern Germany, and if I'm not incorrect, modern Germany has now hit a 50-50, where 50% of the population is ethnically German or ethnically white, and the rest is either Middle Eastern or African. And this was
Wow.
this was a huge surprise, but this was actually taken as a positive by the powers in Germany to the point where they
No shit.
celebrated this and made postage stamps that you could buy displaying the ethnic changes of Germany in the last like 30 or 40 years and displaying it as a good thing. Essentially, the German government celebrated that its ethnic makeup was no longer the vast majority.
That's that's
Yeah, I
I
want
don't know what to say. I don't know
to.
what to
One
think
thing I
about it.
went to, point of order. Sorry.
Yes.
What I meant was the European Commission. Sorry, is what I was referring to. As far
Violence,
as the
yes.
unelected. Yeah, yeah. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
Punish Luciano.
I'm done. I'm done. That was all I wanted to say. Is it's been destroyed, and the fact that the Germans are celebrating their destruction, is sad.
The EJ says they celebrated in the word Volkstag, death of the German ethnicity. Sad, at the least, to hate yourself so much as to celebrate the diluting of your blood.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. Anyway, let's go back to another. Let's go to another subject that I was thinking because this is too appalling for me. Let's go to the Far East. That I am noticing a phenomenon that is happening in the Western world that started in Japan. The incel phenomenon, and that dovetails with the hikikomori in Japan. After decades of feminist agenda, because the giving women sexual freedom, Japanese women are very sexually free, especially the ones in the big cities. Regarding uh, foreign white men are very sought after for Japanese women. And of course, there is this the idea of the boss babe and the working woman that has of course this is has how do you say benefited the Japanese economy by putting so many women, so many human beings into the workforce. This has completely emasculated the male, the Japanese male.
Yep.
I'm going to give you one little nugget of information that is actually very telling. Do you notice that Japan or the Japanese are very eager and massive consumers of pornography?
Huge.
The Japanese pornographic industry, either in videos and toys for that, and sort of the products, the overall pornographic Japanese industry is bigger than the American one. However, the number of male porn performers, sex performers, is downright to just 87 of 125 million people and thousands of women who every year enter the pornographic industry. The Japanese the Japanese industry only counts with 87 males to cater to the whole industry. This is appalling. I mean, they even have actors that are over 75 years old. Now, this is because the Japanese male was nothing short of emasculated, relegated to, and this is not an exaggeration, men shutting down and staying in their rooms for years on end. I am not exaggerating. It's not light years. No, it's actual years. They get a menial job working remote. They order a takeaway, and they have their mothers or anybody who is around to bring them food to their doors, to the doors of their rooms, not the rooms of their houses, the rooms of the doors of the rooms.
Yeah.
And is this phenomenon because of the incel after this feminism, the feminism sprout that has happened, especially in the Me Too era, and the incel phenomenon? Do you think this somehow resembling or starting in the United States with American men, Western men?
Can I add? Can I chime in and give you an anecdote, like a story of people,
By
someone, a friend
means,
of mine?
more than welcome.
I don't know if it's so much American influence, but you have to understand that Japan was defeated by America in World War II, and they quickly started copying a lot of our work, like our work ethic, the way we do life. It's so Americanized. I mean, they don't speak English on a large scale like you would see in the Middle East or in Europe, but they did adopt a lot of the mannerisms and they perfected it. So they took our industries and stuff and they perfected it, through their Japanese innovation and how they work. But I have an anecdote of a friend. My Australian friend that I worked with in Saudi on a project, or Saudi Arabia for you guys, with Saudi when I say that, he was married to a Japanese wife. He brought her to Australia, had a child with her, and apparently she left him while he was in Saudi Arabia. Sent him divorce papers in Saudi Arabia. We're working on the middle of a project, by the way. This is a very important project we're working on for Aramco Oil, and he was freaking out. I was like trying to like help him, because this is the thing is with Red Pill and MGTOW is we have to be a good support structure for our men that we work with and people we care about, man. That's the whole point of why we're here and why the community is so important. It doesn't matter about like women hating or any of that stuff or red pill rage. It's just you have to, we're men at the end of the day, and we need to support each other in that regard. But regardless, he was telling me about like that she basically sent him papers for divorce. He had to leave this project. He was making decent money when because he was basically trying to like provide a good life for his wife and his kids, so they go back to Australia and live. This is pre the bug, and he went to Japan. She refused to give him the child, called the cops on him. They harassed him, went let him see the child, and then he went to court, and the judge pretty much told him, you don't need to come back again because basically you're a foreigner and we're not going to do anything for you. You're going to lose your rights, your child. So the courts gave her full rights to custody of the child to her, and basically filed the divorce, and he's never been able to see his kid again for many years. Yes, completely. And he said that this is very common in Japan with Japanese women and Japanese men. A lot of times Japanese men, they just they throw their hands of it and they say, oh well, and they move on with their life. They're just so used to it. So when you hear about these passport bros and people wanting to go and hook up with these Asian women, I mean, it's like, guys, come on, man. It's not always like greener pastures on the other side. It's not all honey and peaches and wonderful lollipops and sundaes. You have to marry into the culture. So if you're going to go overseas for a wife, you need to have either some type of cultural
Understanding.
assimilation, or you need to have some cultural similarities, because otherwise it's not going to work. And this is the same thing with other people I worked with from that were married to Chinese women. They went to China on different projects, and every single guy that I know that either married or dated a Chinese woman or a Japanese woman. I'm not calling these women out, or these countries out. I'm not being that way. Every single person I know that's married a foreign bride from East Asia has been divorced, and they went through the divorce grape and lost their child, and they
Were they
never been able to see them
were
again.
they divorce
And
rates?
the State Department won't do anything for them.
Yeah, they
The U.S.
can't.
government will not do shit for them. Yeah, well, they can't. Their hands are tied.
Yep.
So yeah, it is what it is.
Polish Gusano, please, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean that phenomenon, the what Josh is speaking about, what you spoke about is prevalent. Um there's it's not just the Hikikomori guys that stay in the room all day and their mom leaves them a tray at the door. Just like very recently, and I can pull up the article. There was a crackdown because there was a website in Japan that was producing for the sake of the stream, let's refer to it as cheese pizza. But if you guys just take the
Oh yeah,
first letters, you can figure out what it is.
yes.
They were
Pick
producing
the
cheese
worst
pizza
and you'll
using
be right.
AI.
Yes,
So
yes.
the
Speaking about
degeneracy
that,
is at all levels.
a very lucrative. Speaking about that, a very lucrative market inside the manga community is the lolicon,
Yep.
shotacon, and toddlercon,
Yep.
which is erotic stories that portray, uh, let's say, human beings recently into life.
Yep.
Some of them very recently into life. Since there are no laws that prohibit them and no human being is harmed, this material is legally and therefore widely distributed, and those who partake in these activities, they make a killing of money.
Oh, that's an
And of course, the
understatement.
Japanese being the main consumers of such material. Uh, Polish Gusano, please continue.
Yeah, and he's right about the yeah, there's this weird I guess it must be the miasma that's caused by interacting with Western women, but there really is like this almost this lie that Western men tell themselves about foreign women. Foreign women in a lot of sense are more dangerous to you than the Western women in your own country. They know what because they know specifically what you're looking for, and they will cater to it much better than any Western woman could. And that will trick you so fast. You got to be careful when you go to other countries and have no cultural understanding, and you're just a and I say this with all due respect, you're just like a dummy American looking for a trad wife. That's dude, girls who can smell will smell that off
That's
you and eat you
I
alive.
think the expression that you're looking for, Polish Gusano, is wishful thinking.
Yeah. Very, very wishful.
AJ AJ has said something regarding this. He said that you marry the whole village, and of
Yep.
course in Thailand or Philippines they will kill the passport bros if they try to divorce.
Yep.
If I was to say something, a moral of this story is to always, I mean, paraphrasing Rollo Tomasi, the frame is everything. Gentlemen who are listening to this and they are planning to have a girlfriend, always control the frame. Never allow the frame to weaken. The frame is the balance of power should always be in your favor. Now, Polish Gusano, please continue. I'm sorry I interrupted
No,
you,
you're
but
good,
I
brother.
just got
This
carried
is a discussion regardless. But yeah, no, yeah, that they need to. I remember I was having a discussion with with a close IRL friend of mine, two other IRL friends and his father. We were in my buddy's backyard, and I remember telling them about the if you don't reborn yourself as a man, if you don't find yourself as a man, you will be destroyed by women regardless of of race, culture, or religion. And they pushed back on me and said, "Nah, man, that's just a thing here in the U.S. Women in our country, and they're Ethiopian for in terms of, women in my country would never do something like that. Women in South America would never do something like that. Women in Asia would never do something like that." I said, "No, the women in those countries would actually do you dirtier than the women here in the United States in a lot of ways. Like they said, you go and
How
divorce that
so?
girl, they'll come to your house and chop your head off. Seriously, they'll find you." No, that's happened. Guys who have dated like Middle Eastern, North African women, passport bros, they end up finding that that woman is just as hell as the women in their country. They go and divorce that girl. One of her family members will come and hunt you down and kill you. I mean, that's just the reality. Or they'll play, or like Josh's friend, he'll get divorce papers in the mail from halfway across the world. So you go and this is not a cheat code. It's a whole new world. You're playing a whole new
It's a
game
game.
when
It's
you
another
go to
game.
these countries.
Wow. Now, question to you, Polish Samuel.
Yeah.
Do you see incels or hikikomori in your community?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't really pried into the lives of too many of friends I've made here. I've never really asked them how they are. I don't find it interesting to pry into their lives, so I haven't really found anybody like that. Could they be? Probably. Likelier than not, there's quite a few, but I'm not sure.
What's the general spirit of the male community that you frequent? I'm sorry, I want to say so. There is this word in Greek called thumos, Thumos, which would resemble to translate into the chi in Chinese or ki, which is somehow the steam, the vapor that surrounds you,
Mm.
that your body generates. In a way, it's called the spirit or the air or that thing that makes you unique. You see, when you see somebody and you see him healthy or you see him depressed or you see him, that's the tumos. It's subtle, yet very present.
Mm.
What is the tumos that you see in the male population of your community, Polish Lusana?
Scared. A lot of them, because of their mothers, have almost this fear of socialization. They a lot of them are very nervous, very anxious, and they almost freeze up. A lot of it, what I see is they'll surround themselves with girls. A lot of men will surround themselves with three or four girls as female friends, and what they in the false assumption that they come to is, dude, if I just surround myself with girls and start understanding how they work, I'm going to get a lot of game and I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn how to play them. And what ends up happening is, like, are you guys familiar with the science around neuroplasticity, the physical change of the brain when it comes into new environments?
Uh, I think that you would explain it better than me. Please go ahead.
Okay, this is a debated topic. Some more mainstream scientists say it's pseudoscience, but there's a lot of evidence that it does happen. Um, Basically, neuroplasticity, when you put somebody, especially a younger person, but it happens to anybody of any age, into a completely new environment, where they have to pick up new habits, new forms of living, uh, there is not only an internal change of the brain, but an actual physical change of the brain. The wrinkles in the brain will actually change, and behaviors because of this will change. And you see this
Of course.
where a lot of guys, they put themselves, I'm going to describe it as hell. They put themselves in hell to learn game, and what ends up happening is they become a demon. Like the people, the women they surround themselves with, then the picking female social habits, nervousness, anxiety, fear, which are feminine traits. These are not the natural state
They
of
end
men.
up mimicking.
Yep.
They end up
It
mimicking the
happens to
women that they want to attract.
young men who are raised by like single mothers, or their mother is domineering. they'll pick up the physical mannerisms of their mom, the limp wrist, legs crossed over in a tight formation, sitting with your legs very close together, destroying your male genitalia in the process. They'll pick up these small mannerisms because they see it, and their mother corrects them. I've seen this myself, where the mother will correct you. Hey, sit like this. Hey, don't talk to somebody like. Always say sorry. I have a friend who I met him last year. Very nice guy, Hispanic. Grew up with a single mom, and he would always say sorry, regardless if he did anything wrong or we're even mad at him. And I would tell him, "Hey, dude,
Is he Canadian?
no, he's South American. He's not. He's
It's a joke.
He's South American. He's German and South American. His father's German. Mother's from South
All
America.
right.
But he grew up with his mom, and
Right.
we literally started bullying him until he stopped saying sorry. He doesn't say it anymore. But when I first met him, um, even if I would respond to him and he thought that I interrupted him, he would say, "Oh, sorry, my bad." And I was like, "Dude, why are you saying that? Dude, you're good. You're not doing anything wrong." Just that being instilled into him subtly through direction from his mom, up until he met me. He's 22. He's 22. He's my age. Just until he started I started instructing him to stop saying it through social pressure. He was saying sorry to every single person, regardless if he was doing anything wrong. And that type of stuff can seem menial, but those type of social interactions will make people think they can manipulate you, and they'll try to destroy you because they'll think you're weak. If you're apologizing for every single social interaction you have no ground to stand on. And that's what happens to a lot of guys.
I would imagine that young women in campuses must feel very frustrated and lonely because I understand, and Josh and Punjusana, please be with me or just correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, that the true happiness of a woman comes when she's around a man she admires. And these men that you describe being so soft, they they only could elicit spite and disgust. And the test they only could elicit from these women. And how do you see the tumos of the women?
And Josh, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
So what are you asking exactly?
What's the spirit of the women? When I say tumos, it's the this general sensation of existing that these women have, because since they are deprived of men to admire, they are as much as a disadvantage of the men who are weak and they cannot get them. See my point?
I mean, like yeah, the thing is that like the best way to describe like women that is the red pill sphere definition of it. Um, men men's social I guess sexual value or their social status increases with age, and women's decreases with age. And the reason
Yes.
why is because men, obviously accumulate more wealth, knowledge, as well as social status. Women, they receive their social status young, in their 20s and early 30s. Once they hit late 30s, they start to. And in other cultures it's different as well. So in Asian cultures it's even younger, like 28 apparently. They start to lose that social value because the whole point, in this kind of sphere, or at least this definition, women, their sexual value, they could produce babies, you know what I mean? And they're more fertile in their 20s than they are in their 30s and 40s. Some women, I mean, there's studies now that they're saying that women are becoming infertile in their late 20s now and 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's women that can't have children in their 30s and 40s, and it's becoming an epidemic where it's becoming younger and younger because they're not having children. I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason why, but that could be a possible scientific explanation. But I mean, the thing is that they're starting to see recent studies that women are starting to become infertile earlier on, and they're later on or earlier in life generally, or menopause basically is what I'm referring to. So they're hitting menopause at younger ages than their parents or their grandparents before them, or their grandmothers before them.
Polish Gusano, would you please so kind? Be so kind.
Yep. So what I've started seeing is I've heard about the stuff that Josh is talking about, the infertility, but also just the spirit of the chicks is they start embodying masculine positions and roles, loudness. They're trying assertiveness, and they never do it well. So they become frustrated at the fact that that all they can attempt is mimicry, but never true fulfillment in these things, and it's causing them to adopt masculine roles within themselves, their social groups, and their families, and it's destroying them. It's making them unhappy. It's making them angry, depressed, anxious. But they pursue these things because they've been lied to, and it's just eventually going to it's going to destroy them if not
You know
already.
when I hear you both speaking, you know what comes to my mind? Have you seen the movie of 2006? So rather long movie, almost 20 years ago, Children of Men with British actor Clive Owen. Do you remember that movie? Children
I've never seen it.
Children of Men is a movie, is
Josh,
a
you're muted.
fictitious movie
Oh
when
no,
something happened that eventually made all
it,
women infertile, and no women could have children, and all the women had miscarriages on, and society drifted on, and 20 years and 20 years later, uh, the society is broken into shambles. Not a pocket, not like Mad Max, but there is this sense of of lack of drive, of lack of gumption, of tiredness and fatigue and hopelessness. That eventually, of course, the movie kicks in. The movie kicks in with a terrorist group hiding a pregnant woman, which happens to be black. And this, of course, leads to the adventure of Clive Owen, the protagonist, having to take care of her. The movie is called Children of Men. When you describe this is what I imagine: a sense of oppressive hopelessness and inevitability that nothing can be changed. Uh, okay. Can you hear me properly? I believe that I might be. I'm sorry. We're having a little bit of
no,
a
you're good. And Mario, you're good. You're good, brother. Just keep going, man.
sorry. Yes. Um, it's this thing. It's like this is for the people listening to us. If I was to tell you, we're almost at our limit of your show. We always keep it on 2 hours, and now we're in the closing aspect. Um, if we were to call to if this show wants to provide a service, it's giving morals of the stories that we tell,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the following thing: do not give in to the
100%.
oppressive hopelessness that surrounds you. Uh, it is difficult, especially to the young men listening to us.
Yep.
But remember, it gets easier if you fix on yourselves. Embrace masculinity. If he was to tell you something, read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Everything is in your mind. Focus from within. Grow from within. Uh, Patience is the key word that you need to get. Patience and grind.
Yep.
Uh, Actually, the bar is very low
Mm-hmm.
because so many weak people are weakening further that it's very easy. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not arduous. I mean, you will have to put an effort on it, and it will hurt, and you will feel frustrated. But you have to keep going on.
Yeah.
But once you pass that plateau, you will find an immense uh, 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 meadow of richness, of abundance, and of happiness
Uh-huh.
that will be yours, genuinely yours for the taking. I
Cool.
am proud. I mean, Pulish Gusano, you are going through that road. Please be so kind to tell us something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, Mario's right. You guys have to return to masculinity. This current state, it's nothing new. It's something that's been around since the beginning of time. It started with Adam. He was the first man to ever be weak, and he was the first man ever. He listened to his wife rather than God, and he paid for it. And because of that, we're born through the sin of the woman, which was disobedience, and we're born in her image. You have to return to your father, not only your physical father, but your father in heaven. And that is the only way to truly gain true masculinity, is to live in the perfect state of God. If you don't do this, no other religion's going to save you. Buddhism is not going to save you. Islam, Andrew Tate religion, that's not going to save you. Muhammad will not save you. Go ask where Muhammad is, and that'll rest the case. The only way to truly return to God is through your father. Once you return to your father, because men are the representatives of Christ on earth, and through that you can return to your father in heaven. Through Christ you will return to God. There's a hierarchy for a reason. God didn't make this for funs and giggles. God over Christ, Christ over man, men over women, and women over children. Man is both over the man and the woman, because Christ is not here on earth in physical form, and we're made in the image of God. We are his representative of earth. Regardless of how weak a man is, he represents God. He speaks for him with every single one of his actions and every single one of the examples he sets. If you have to set a good example, there's no other way. No, as much as I love the scriptures, memorizing the Bible, memorizing the Quran, memorizing the Talmud, that is not going to save you. Those are just words that are meant there to be memorized. They're not going to save you. They're not going to help you. You have to return the proper way, in spirit, in perfect love, not the mushy stuff the gays and the women want you to believe. That's imperfect, fake love. That's from the devil. You have to return to the nature of love, which is of God. No other way. There's no other path. There's one path. Absolutely.
Josh, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, totally. Like I said, I converted to Orthodox Christianity when I married my wife about 12, 13 years ago. And in America, the closest Orthodox church to me is like an hour and a half drive, and like it's a bit difficult to get there on the weekends. But as a result, like I said, there's plenty of churches in my area. Most, a lot of Protestant, Catholic, and so on and so forth. I was raised Catholic and I converted to Orthodox. But what I noticed with the Protestant churches in my area is a lot of this like woke ideology is being
Yep.
pushed, in the churches. And I mean, the I see, like I said, I don't want to speak too badly about the Protestants, but I mean, I've seen like boomer men that are emasculated, their wives like with short hair or pink or purple hair.
Yep.
I'm seeing,
Jeans.
them basically like emasculate their husband. Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm like, dude, that guy has got to be gay, dude. He's got to be
She's
gay,
wearing the
hundred
pants.
percent,
She's
man.
wearing the
Because
pants.
yeah, 100%. I see that, and like the other thing that I see is like their children are usually have some type of like drug issue or
Yep.
crime or poverty issue.
Huge
They're living with the
identity issues
parents,
as
or they have
well.
some kind of psychological issue.
Yep.
And these are people that have been in the church for like generations, if not like, their whole lives. They raised their children in the church. And I've talked to them and I'm like, I don't want to get too far into it with them about it, because it's kind of a personal thing. So, and I'm not judgmental. It's like, dude, it's just what I've observed. Um, and the Orthodox Church, like I said, like, and like I said, I live in Georgia, Republic of Georgia, as well as the United States. And it's a vast difference between, our conservativeness and the conservatives of the West and the United States.
Yep.
I don't see that stuff in Georgia.
100%.
I don't see it. I'm sorry. And it's like, even for my wife, it's just foreign. I mean, my wife speaks English fluently. She speaks multiple languages. She's it is what it is. And it's for her, it's strange, and she's just like, wow, this is very, very, very strange for me. So I mean, the reality is that the church.
Oh,
We
Josh cut
may
out for
be
a second.
having technical. You froze, Josh. You
Yeah,
froze.
Josh, you froze.
I'm going to let it. I'm letting it.
Yep.
I'm sorry to the dear public. We are having technical difficulties, but we'll be fixing it in no time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll speak. I'll speak to what Josh is talking about. He's 100% right. I live
By
in
all
this.
means, yes,
I
yes.
live in the southeast of the United States. I live in one of the most Protestant parts of the nation. They're conservative in comparison to, of course, the West Coast and the Northeast. But otherwise, I mean, like he's right. The conservatism here compared to the conservatism in in regions that are from apostolic churches such as the Orthodox, the Oriental Orthodox, the Catholics, they hail in comparison. The form of conservatism here is still liberal at heart. It has a dissident nature. The liberalism in the States has infected the very bones of the country. The conservatives here, all they want is libertarianism. Libertarianism is not a conservative value. Sorry to tell you, it doesn't matter that you have your Second Amendment and your guns. It's not a conservative. That's not a critical conservative value. Is to have your guns. Libertarian bros. It's just the
Uh,
truth. So, yeah, he's right. I mean, the conservatism in traditional churches it's the truest form, because it's obedient.
Yeah.
uh,
Yes, and like I
Josh,
said, it's like, yeah, like I said, with when I talk to Unchained all the time about
Yep.
this, and I was like, dude, I go to church and it's just peace and love, man, peace and love, and I'm like, dude, are we gonna talk about Armageddon? Like, they're like, why are you right all the time? Like, because I read the Bible, dude. Like, everything going on right now is in the Bible. And it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about the book of Revelation so much. I'm just talking about, have you guys actually like read the Bible?
Yep.
Because the wickedness that's going on right now, it's in the Bible because it's happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening in the present and it will happen in the future. We're imperfect beings, you know what I mean? And like the reality is that, we're sinners at the end of the day. Doesn't matter, you know what I mean? And then through Christ's love, like I said, we become, perfect stewards of the religion, you know what I mean? And the whole purpose of studying the Bible, the whole purpose of believing and practicing is to try to, be Christ like, you know what I mean? Try to be your sanctification, so to speak. So and
100%.
if you guys know what sanctification is, I'm sure you got that, Mario. Like, can you explain what sanctification is?
achieve godhood.
Yeah.
Achieve
State of
godhood.
grace.
Right.
But then this is the thing. When I mean, I'm going to give you the most practical symptom of godhood: sleeping like a baby. You've achieved godhood when you go to sleep. You wake up and you don't remember anything of the day before, other than what you dreamed or what your plans is. No guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying is acting right, even if you were wrong,
Yep.
but knowing that you gave the best and the most of the best of yourself when you gave all of your best
100%.
for your profit, for your thriving, but you held no, you didn't hold back. And this is the thing. If I was to tell you something, achieve sleeping like a baby, even if it means getting rid of things. Yes, I would say, and I venture to say that both my friends and co-host of this show are happy men. Do we have problems? Yes. Do we have difficulties? Yes. Do we sometimes things go out not the way we wanted? Yes. Sometimes do we do everything right and still not succeed? Yes. And yet we still go to sleep without any qualms
Mm-hmm.
and sleep like babies.
100%.
Uh,
And it's not just about
closing
being
thoughts.
happy. It's about being at peace. What you're describing is not just happiness, it's being at peace. Like you said, waking up in the morning, not worrying about this and that, just being still, being in the present. A lot of people get caught up in the past, which really doesn't exist. If the past existed, can you go to it right now? No. The future, it's not yet here. It doesn't exist either. You can only live in the present. If you worry about past and future, you're worrying about things that don't exist and you're not being still. The devil loves it when people are anxious, are fearful, are worrying, and one of the biggest worries is about the past, which happened and it's gone now, and the future, which has not happened and we cannot know. Only God knows the future, and we're worrying about it with our finite minds. It's ridiculous.
That's not our job.
Yep, it's not our job, and it couldn't even be if we wanted it to be.
Josh, any closing thoughts? Uh, Josh?
Joshua?
Anyway, well, it seems that Josh wishes to think us to imagine what would he would have said.
Yeah.
And I believe that we've been 12 minutes, 12 very healthy and very cherished minutes. However, above our limit,
Yep.
beyond our limit. I'm sorry. I would have to. Oh, Josh, please, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was a good podcast. Like I said, I'd like to mention to everybody, if you enjoy this content, like I said, go ahead and like and subscribe and share it
Yes.
with other people and other social platforms. Because, like I said, we're really building a group here,
Yep.
and we're cross-platform between Telegram and Rumble because those are free speech platforms, and we're on Twitter as well, all of us. The
The-
link tree is definitely in the video link underneath. So if you want to follow us on other platforms, that's great. But the reality is, like I said, if you want to be on the show too, by the way, you could go to our Telegram channel. It's in the link tree on the bottom. And if you want to chat in and you can talk, it's cool. We can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about related to MGTOW, Red Pill, economy, religion, whatever you want to talk about. Like I said, it's an open forum, brother, and like I said, we're respectful of like people's opinions. And like I said, I'm glad you guys are here, and I thank you for the podcast. Like I said, this is a great stuff that we're doing here.
Well, just remember, yes, we're not gonna lie to you. We are grifters. We want your money, and we want to drive the Ferrari, and we want to travel around the world. Yes, we do, but we're not gonna lie to you. Yes, and we strive to give you our best. That's
Absolutely.
our contract. Uh, I haven't. This show has come to an end, and God willing, we'll be having another show on Monday. You're most welcome to join, just like Josh said, and Punish Usano as well. So thank you for having joined us in Straight Talk. This is the place where we dot the I's and cross the T's. Uh, Good night. And I was going to say good luck, but luck is for the mediocre because only mediocres have luck. I wish to all of you who are listening to us success.
Absolutely.
To be successful.
I wish you guys well.
Uh, Goodbye, and on Monday.
See you guys.
Yeah, like I said, you guys definitely can't do this without you guys. I appreciate it. Like I said, thanks guys. Everybody, like I want to mention other people that are in our Telegram troop that are helping us as well. So it's not just Liquid Monkey, myself, and Unchained. It's there's other people in Telegram that are helping us out, and we're getting so much support from everybody. And like I said, like you guys in the Telegram group, you guys are our backbone, man. And I thank you guys 100%.
Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.